Hello, kindergartners, and welcome to Music Time. Thank you for joining me last week. We had a wonderful lesson. You guys did a great job. To begin with this week, I would like to ask Ellis a question. Ellis, can you tell me what this is and what this is? You're correct. This is the treble clef, and this is the bass clef. We know that the notes in the treble clef sound higher than the notes in the bass clef. Thank you very much. You didn't think I was going to call on you that quickly, did you? Very good. Okay. And then another question that I have, and I think I will ask this question for Jacoby, of Jacoby. What is this note? This note that's all alone in this big sea of lines and spaces that takes up the entire measure? You're correct. That is a whole note. We know that a whole note in this case gets 4 beats. Ta, ah, ah, ah. Okay, then a note that we've talked about a little bit but haven't spent a lot of time on because it's a new note happens in our last measure in the treble clef and in the first measure in the bass clef. And this note is unusual because it has, it's hard to see, but has a dot. This note has a dot. Now, it's not a freckle and it's not measles, right? But it happens to be just like a dot that we would see as a period at the end of a sentence. Now, if we look in the measure above in the treble clef, we know that we have ta, ah, 2 half notes that gives us 4 beats. So we have beats 1, 2, 3, 4. And in the bass clef in the first measure, we have 2 notes, and we know that those 2 notes, since there is no rest in this measure, these 2 notes are going to have to add up to 4 beats. So if we want to work backwards, we look at this note and say, well, we know what that is. That's a ta, or a quarter note, and that gets 1 beat. So that would be beat number 4. Which means our first note, which is a half note with a dot, ta, ah, with a dot, then gets how many beats? You're right, it gets 3. 1, 2, 3. So we have 4 beats in the measure. Here we have 2 notes of even value, and by putting the dot on, we add half of the note's value. Once again, we're using all that musical math, which is such a wonderful thing. We have 3 beats on the first note and 1 beat on the second note. In our middle measure, we know that we have all quarter notes. Every note is ta. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we move our dotted half note, our ta, ah, ah, up into the treble clef. And then we end the song with a single note, a ta or a quarter note on the 4th beat. All the time, this note holds in the whole note holds its time for all 4 beats in the last measure. Very good. Excellent review and a nice job on the questions. Thank you much. Now, today we want to talk about how the notes move. Okay? We know that notes can do basically 3 different things. They can go up, they can go down, or they can stay the same. We know that notes that move up move in this direction. Notes that move down, here's a great example right here. We move down a lot, okay? But we're going to talk about the terms that we use for those notes that move. And to do so, we're going to use our little staircase, okay? Mr. Stam did a wonderful thing when he made this. This is really a helpful tool to learn how notes move. In our first measure, in the treble clef, we have 2 half notes that are very close to each other, okay? Imagine on the step that we step on the bottom step and we move up 1 step, okay? We call that stepwise motion. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because the note only moves from from the open space to the next line. Okay, so we have 1, 2. So we move from here to here. We call that interval a second because we're only moving from this space to this line. So we think of that on our stair steps as moving from one step to the next. As we move into our next measure, now we see that from the first note to the second note, we do not have anything in this space. The space is empty. So this line has a note, and this line has a note, but the space has nothing. So if we step from the step that we were on, we're going to skip this step, and we're going to move up to this one. Now, that's interesting. We just use the word skip. And if we step between these notes, because they only move from space to line, this note moves from line to line and skips the space. We call that a skip. This note is moving from here to here and skipping the step in between. When we move to beat 3 to beat 4, we are now skipping not only the space, but also the next line. That would be a big skip, wouldn't it? If we were going up the steps, we'd be very careful that we didn't accidentally slip. So now we're moving from this space, and then nothing on this line, nothing in this space, nothing on this line, to the next space. A distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we skipped from a third, here we skip 5, or a whole fifth. Now what does that sound like? We know that if we have our stair steps, we skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go from here to here. But on the piano, what we hear is from a third, and we call that the interval of a third. 1, 3, 1, 5. And what happens if we put 1, 3, and 5 together? We get that sound that's right, it's a chord. So think of the chord as a skip from 1 to 3, 1 to 5, played together. Okay, very good. So now, just like going up our staircase, we have a step, we have a skip for those of you that have long legs and want to get up the stair steps faster, and then we get to our last measure, and oh my goodness, what do we have? Would we call this a skip? No, that's not a skip. That's a leap from here to here. We're actually going from the same note to an octave higher. So we have a line, space, line, space, line, space, line. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What's significant about a leap that is 8 steps, a leap of an eighth? That is a long distance. We would never want to do that if we went up or down the stairs. But in music, that leap from here is called the octave. Now, you guys are a little young for this, but you might have heard this song, okay? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Hi-ho, okay? Hi-ho, it's off to work we go. That's how it starts, with a leap of an octave. So it's something that we use in music quite frequently. We can move by step. Let's write that up here. The only thing more interesting than my writing are my not straight lines, and I do apologize. By step, by skip, and by leap. And leap is a long way. So here it's a full octave. Now, tell me something. All of this movement we've looked at in the treble clef has been which direction? We've only looked at notes going up, even though here we're going back down. Okay? So it's the same. Down, we go up a third, down a fourth. But we're looking at movement going up. So we have step, skip, and leap, and they're all moving up or ascending. Now, when we move down to the bass clef, we've gone the other direction. Here we have a leap. That's an octave again, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But it's a leap down. So instead of going up, we're going down. So use your low voice. Remember when we talk about using our voice to find if something is high or if something is low. That's what we want to do here. If we go bum, bum, we're moving down a full octave. Now, we didn't have this in the treble clef, did we? But this is something that all of you together at the same time are going to say the word scale. We're moving down by step. So now we're learning that scales really are moving by step. Step, 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 step. Okay? Just like we're walking down our staircase very carefully. Okay? We're moving by step, 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 step. And we get to our last measure in the bass clef, and we have the single note. He has everything to himself. Which direction is this whole note moving? Kind of a trick question for today, isn't it? This whole note isn't moving. It's stationary. It's not moving at all. So it's neither going up nor down, but it's just staying in its space. In this case, it's a G whole note, while the notes above move. So it's just holding instead of moving. Here we have notes that are moving up and down. Here we have notes moving up and down. And in our last measure, the bass note, the low note, is just holding onto the harmony as the treble clef, the upper note, moves all the way up an octave. So for today, we want to remember, step is when we move from a space to a line, or from a line to a space, but don't have anything in between. A skip moves from a line to a line or line to a space, but has a place in between where there is no note. So we have a note, and no note. And here we actually have two places. Move from a line, space, line, space. We skip down, we skip up 3 and down 4. And then we skip up 5. And we know if we put together notes 1, 3, and 5, in this case it would be a B up here, then that's how we make a chord. And in our last measure, we move up by 8 steps, a full leap of an octave. Here we leap down an octave, we move down by step in a small scale, and then we have a note, our whole note, that just stays the same all the way till the end, because we have the double bar line that finishes our song. Thank you very much. You've been a great class again. Thank you for answering the questions. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great day and blessings and safety to you and your family.